What if I told you that something as tiny, as innocent-looking as a nut, could quietly be helping, or hurting, you every single day? Sounds strange, right? I mean, what harm could a few nuts possibly do? You've been told for years that nuts are healthy, full of protein, good fats, natural, even doctor approved, right? But let me ask you something. Have you ever stopped to wonder which nuts are actually helping you, and which ones might be silently working against you? Because here's the truth that nobody talks about enough: not all nuts are created equal. And when you're over 60, what goes into your body matters more than ever. Your digestion slows down, your organs become more sensitive, and your body doesn't recover from the little mistakes the way it used to. You see, for a healthy 25-year-old, eating a salted peanut mix or a candied nut bar might not make much of a difference. But for you, or your aging parent, that same handful could raise blood pressure, strain the kidneys, or quietly trigger inflammation that leads to pain, memory loss, or worse. Now, let me pause for a second and say something important. If you're here watching this video, it means you care. You're not the type to just accept getting old as an excuse for discomfort or decline. Maybe you're the son or daughter looking out for your aging mother. Maybe you're the spouse who's noticed changes in your partner: fatigue, bloating, forgetfulness. Or maybe you're the senior yourself, wondering why your energy isn't what it used to be, even though you're eating healthy. You're doing your best. But sometimes, doing your best with the wrong information still leads you down the wrong path. And that's what this video is here to change. Let me tell you a quick story. There's a gentleman named Mr. Harris. He's 79. Bright smile. Loved gardening. Always believed in natural foods. Every day, he'd have a little snack. Nuts were his favorite. He'd mix cashews, macadamia nuts, and peanuts. It was his power mix, he said. But slowly, his joints started aching. His blood pressure shot up. And he found himself feeling sluggish, bloated, and short of breath. Doctors ran tests, gave him meds, but they never asked what he was snacking on. Until one day, a sharp-eyed nutritionist dug a little deeper. Turns out, that healthy nut mix, it was flooding his body with sodium, saturated fat, and oxalates, things his aging organs couldn't handle. And the worst part? He thought he was doing everything right. Now, I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to wake you up. Because you deserve to feel good. To eat foods that help you stay sharp, strong, and independent. That's why today's video is going to break it all down, clearly and simply. I'm going to show you 4 nuts that every senior should be eating daily. These are the real powerhouses. And 4 nuts you should avoid at all costs, especially if you're dealing with blood pressure issues, diabetes, inflammation, or kidney concerns. And here's the kicker. Number 3 on the avoid list is found in most trail mixes. You've probably eaten it this week without realizing what it's doing inside your body. So, if you're serious about aging gracefully, living with energy and confidence, and giving your loved ones peace of mind, then you'll want to stay with me right to the very end. Because this video, it's not just about nuts. It's about powerful choices. It's about taking back control over your health, one bite at a time. So let me ask you this, are you ready? If your answer is yes, type it below in the comments right now. Just write, I'm ready. Let's show the world that we're not going to let age define our health. And before we go on, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, Senior Health. Because this is more than a video. It's a movement. A place where seniors, caregivers, and families come together to learn, grow, and thrive. Alright. Take a deep breath. Because what you're about to learn could change everything about the way you snack, and how you age. Let's begin. Nut number 1 to eat daily, walnuts, the brain boosters. Now, let's begin with the first nut you should be eating every single day. Walnuts. Yes, those little wrinkled, brain-shaped nuggets. Turns out, they don't just look like the brain. They protect it, too. Let me tell you about Mr. Lewis. He's 82. A retired teacher. Sharp as a tack back in the day, could quote Shakespeare and solve crosswords faster than anyone else in the family. But slowly, things started to slip. He'd forget names. He'd repeat stories. And sometimes, he'd stop mid-sentence, lost, confused, unsure of where he was going with his thought. At first, his daughter chalked it up to normal aging. But deep down, she knew something wasn't right. So she started researching, looking for natural ways to support her father's mind without overwhelming him with more pills. And one morning, she crushed a few walnuts and sprinkled them into his oatmeal. Did it again the next day. And the next. Weeks went by. And something amazing happened. Her dad started remembering again. He asked about people by name. He called her on her birthday, without a reminder. The fog that had started to settle in his mind began to lift. Now, I'm not saying walnuts are a miracle cure. But what they are is powerful brain fuel. Here's why. Walnuts are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, particularly something called ALA, alpha-linolenic acid. Now don't let the science throw you off. All you need to know is this: these healthy fats are like oil for the engine that is your brain. They reduce inflammation, a key culprit in memory decline. They support blood flow to the brain, which helps with clarity and focus. And they contain antioxidants that fight off the stress and damage aging can bring to your cells. You see, one of the biggest mistakes I see: people relying on fish oil pills, thinking that's enough. And look, I get it. Supplements have their place. But here's the catch: as we age, our gut doesn't absorb synthetic nutrients the same way it used to. That fancy capsule? It might be going in one end and out the other, doing almost nothing in between. But real food, like walnuts, gets digested and absorbed naturally. Your body knows what to do with it. And you don't need a mountain of them either. Just 6 to 8 walnut halves a day, that's it. A small handful. You can mix them into your breakfast. Crush them over a salad. Snack on them mid-afternoon instead of cookies or crackers. It's a small change. But for your brain, it's like flipping the lights back on. So if you're noticing forgetfulness, or if you just want to stay sharp into your 70s, 80s, and beyond, make walnuts a part of your daily routine. Because once the mind starts slipping, it's hard to pull it back. But feeding it right, early and consistently, can keep it strong, alert, and aware. Now, if walnuts are your brain's best friend, the next nut we're about to talk about might be its silent enemy. It's the kind most people eat without thinking twice. It's soft, creamy, and often seen as a luxury snack. But for seniors, it could be quietly doing real damage. Let's talk about it. Nut number 1 to avoid: macadamia nuts, the hidden fat bomb. Now, while walnuts are feeding the brain, there's another nut, deceptively smooth, buttery, and elegant, that's quietly doing the opposite. I'm talking about macadamia nuts. They're soft. They melt in your mouth. They're often tucked inside those fancy chocolate boxes, or baked into gourmet cookies that feel like a treat after a long day. But don't let their luxury image fool you. Let me tell you about Mrs. Esther. She's 76. Still sharp, still active. Every afternoon, she'd sit by the window with a book and a warm cup of tea. And without fail, she'd reach for her favorite, macadamia nut cookies. Just 2 or 3, she thought. That can't hurt, right? They're homemade. All natural. No preservatives. But week after week, something began to change. Her pants felt tighter. She started getting winded climbing the stairs. At her next checkup, her doctor looked her in the eye and said, "Esther, your cholesterol has spiked. And your weight's up by 8 pounds since last time." What changed? At first, she couldn't think of anything. Same breakfast. Same lunch. Same dinner. But then she remembered those cookies. The ones with all those macadamias packed inside. Now here's what most people don't realize: macadamia nuts are loaded with fat. And not just the good fat people love to talk about. These little creamy bombs are packed with saturated fat, the kind that raises LDL cholesterol and burdens your heart. In fact, just a single handful of macadamia nuts, we're talking about 10 to 12 pieces, contains over 200 calories. And here's the kicker: they contain very little protein. So you're getting all that fat and energy, with hardly any muscle building or hunger satisfying benefit. And if you're a senior, that's a double whammy. Why? Because as we age, our metabolism slows down. The calories that used to burn off naturally during a busy day, they stick around now, settling in the belly, around the waist, and near the heart. And here's where the misconception comes in: people hear the word natural, and they think, oh, it's healthy. But let me ask you, isn't poison ivy natural too? Or venom from a snake? See, natural doesn't always mean safe. Especially for the aging body. Macadamia nuts might be okay in tiny amounts for someone running marathons. But for older adults trying to protect their heart, manage weight, and avoid inflammation, they can quietly become a trap. But does that mean you can never enjoy something rich or comforting again? Absolutely not. Here's a smart switch: if you still love that soft nutty texture in your baking or afternoon snack, try using crushed almonds instead. They're lighter, higher in protein, and offer real benefits for the heart, which we'll talk about shortly. You can sprinkle them into muffins, blend them into nut butter, or toss them onto a salad for crunch, without the heavy fat load. So remember, just because something tastes rich and smooth doesn't mean it's nourishing you. And at this stage of life, every bite counts. Now, let's balance things out. If macadamia nuts are sneaky little fat bombs, the next nut we're diving into does just the opposite. It satisfies your cravings, and helps protect your heart like a true defender. Let's talk about it. Nut number 2 to eat daily: almonds, the heart guardians. Now let's talk about a nut that truly lives up to the word superfood. Almonds. Crisp. Subtle. Understated. They're not flashy, they're not exotic, but don't be fooled. These humble little nuts are some of the strongest protectors of your heart. Let me tell you about Mrs. Gloria. She's 70. Retired nurse. A grandmother of 5. Always took pride in managing her health, ate clean, walked every morning, even joined a yoga group. But during one routine visit, her doctor leaned in and said, "Your blood pressure, it's creeping up. Nothing scary yet, but we don't want to wait until it is." Now, Mrs. Gloria wasn't the kind to jump to medication if she could avoid it. So she asked the right question: what can I change in my diet? Her doctor paused for a moment and said, "Try almonds. A handful a day. Just keep them in your purse. Eat them when you'd usually reach for something salty or sweet." She took that advice to heart. Literally. Bought a small zip bag. Every morning, she'd fill it with about a dozen almonds and tuck it into her handbag. And every time she felt a snack craving come on, instead of chips, crackers, or something processed, she'd reach for her almonds. 3 weeks later, at her next checkup, her numbers were better. Not just her blood pressure, but also her cholesterol. And she felt it too: less bloated, more energized, more in control. Now let's talk about why. Almonds are more than just crunchy bites of protein. They're loaded with nutrients that support heart health, especially in seniors. They contain magnesium, which helps relax your blood vessels and reduce pressure inside them. They're rich in potassium, which helps balance sodium levels and support a steady heartbeat. And they pack in vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant that helps prevent damage to your arteries and tissues. It's like giving your heart a soft, protective shield, every single day. But here's where some folks get it wrong. I've had seniors say, but almonds are too hard. I can't chew them with these old teeth. And you know what? That's fair. But here's a little secret, soak them overnight. That's right. Drop 10 to 15 almonds in a cup of water before bed, let them sit, and by morning, they'll be soft, gentle, and easy to chew. The soaking even helps release some of the nutrients, making them easier to digest. And here's another bonus. Soaked almonds don't lose their crunch completely. They're tender but still satisfying. Perfect as a mid-morning snack, right when your energy usually dips and your stomach starts thinking about sugar. So if you've been trying to make heart-smart choices, if you've been told your cholesterol is rising or your blood pressure's been flirting with the danger zone, this is a tiny change that can make a big difference. Forget fancy superfoods from halfway across the world. Sometimes, the answer is as close as your local market, sitting there quietly in a clear plastic jar. 10 to 15 almonds a day. Not more. Not less. Consistency is key. Now, we've seen how almonds guard the heart. They're the quiet protectors. But what if I told you there's another nut, one just as common? That looks harmless, even comforting. But it could be quietly sabotaging your heart from the inside? It's salty. It's crunchy. And for seniors? It might be one of the most dangerous snacks on your shelf. Let's talk about it. Nut number 2 to avoid, salted peanuts, the blood pressure bomb, alright. We've just talked about almonds, the heart's quiet guardian. But now, we need to turn the spotlight on a nut that's probably sitting in your kitchen right now. A nut that's cheap, familiar, and dangerously easy to overeat. Salted peanuts. They seem so harmless, don't they? Toss a few in a bowl. Grab a handful during your favorite TV show. They're crunchy, satisfying, even nostalgic. But let me tell you a story. One that might sound a little too familiar. Uncle Joe. Lively, 74, ex-police officer, loved cracking jokes and telling old stories. But he had one habit, kept a big jar of salted peanuts right by his nightstand. Said it helped him unwind before bed. No harm in a few nuts, he'd say with a chuckle. But one night, he got up to use the bathroom. Felt dizzy. Hands trembling. Vision blurred. He collapsed against the hallway wall. His daughter rushed him to the ER. His blood pressure had spiked through the roof. Dangerously high. The doctor asked about his diet, and sure enough, that harmless jar of peanuts wasn't so harmless after all. See, salted peanuts are loaded with sodium. And for seniors, sodium is a silent saboteur. Here's the simple science: too much salt causes your body to retain water. More water in your bloodstream means more volume, more pressure. And your heart has to work overtime. Salted peanuts often contain hundreds of milligrams of sodium per handful. And many are roasted in cheap, inflammatory oils like hydrogenated soybean or palm oil. That's a perfect storm: salt, bad fat, and not enough nutrients to balance it out. Now let me be clear. It's not that peanuts themselves are evil. In fact, dry-roasted, unsalted peanuts in moderation can be part of a reasonable diet. But most of what's sold in shops is heavily processed. Salted. Fried. Sometimes even coated with MSG or sugar. And here's the common trap: they're cheap. They fill me up. What's the harm? Well, the harm is this: when you're over 60, your body's margin for error shrinks. That handful you could have handled at 30 could push your heart past its limit at 70. So if you love peanuts, here's what you can do: switch to dry roasted. Make sure they're unsalted. And stick to a small handful, about 10 to 12 peanuts. Not every day. Maybe once or twice a week. That's it. And if you're battling high blood pressure, or you're on heart medication, you may want to avoid them altogether, at least until your numbers are under control. Because here's the truth: no snack, no matter how nostalgic or satisfying, is worth risking a trip to the ER. Not when there are better, safer, and tastier options out there. Speaking of which, let's sweeten the deal now, and I mean that literally. Because the next nut on our Eat Daily list doesn't just protect your heart. It also helps stabilize your blood sugar, improves gut health, and gives your body a slow, gentle burst of energy. Oh, and did I mention? It tastes absolutely delicious. Let's talk about it. Nut number 3 to eat daily: pistachios, the sugar stabilizers. Now let's sweeten things up, naturally. And I don't mean sugar-coated advice. I mean real, delicious, body-loving nourishment that just so happens to be green. Yes, I'm talking about pistachios. The nut that not only satisfies your snack cravings, but also helps keep your blood sugar levels balanced and your energy steady. Let me tell you about Mr. Raymond. He's 68. Retired accountant. Diagnosed with type 2 diabetes about a year ago. He tried his best, cut back on soda, limited bread, walked every morning. But he kept hitting the same wall. Sugar crashes. He'd eat lunch, feel okay for a bit. Then suddenly, his hands would shake. His head would feel light. He'd get irritable, then exhausted. And it scared him. One day, his granddaughter, college student, studying nutrition, brought over a little container. Inside? Pistachios. She said, "Grandpa, try these instead of crackers. Trust me." He smiled, humored her, and popped a few. Sweet. Earthy. Crunchy. Satisfying. What he didn't realize was that this little switch was about to stabilize his blood sugar in a way he hadn't felt in months. Because pistachios are small but mighty. Here's what they do: they're high in fiber, which slows down the digestion of sugars. They're rich in protein, which helps maintain steady energy. And they're loaded with healthy fats, which keep you feeling full and balanced after a meal. That deadly roller coaster of sugar spikes and crashes? Pistachios help flatten the ride. No wild highs, no dangerous lows. They're also packed with antioxidants, support eye health, and even contribute to gut health. Yes, your digestion and your blood sugar are more connected than you think. Now, some seniors shy away from pistachios because of one thing: they're too hard to open. And I get it. If your fingers are stiff from arthritis, or your grip isn't what it used to be, fighting with those shells every time you want a snack doesn't sound appealing. But here's the solution: buy them shelled. That's it. Just look for shelled, unsalted pistachios at your local store. They come ready to enjoy. No fuss, no cracked nails, no struggle. And the best part? You don't need a giant bowl to feel the benefit. Just a small handful, about 30 pistachios a day, is the sweet spot. That's enough to nourish your body, support your sugar levels, and keep your snacking guilt-free. You can have them mid-morning. Mix them into plain yogurt. Even toss them over oatmeal or salad for a little color and crunch. They're not just healthy. They're fun. They're vibrant. And for seniors managing diabetes, hypoglycemia, or just unpredictable energy levels, They can be a real game changer. So, if you've been relying on sugary snacks to pick you up, try pistachios instead. They won't give you a spike, they'll give you stability. And that's what aging gracefully is all about. But now, let's flip the page again. Because if pistachios protect your blood sugar, the next nut we're about to discuss? Well, it might be silently pushing your numbers in the wrong direction. Especially if you've got blood pressure, sugar issues, or kidney concerns. Let's dive into it. Nut number 3 to avoid: candied nuts, the sugar traps. Now let's talk about a nut that often wears a sweet disguise. You've probably seen it at family gatherings, holiday snack bowls, or gift tins wrapped in ribbon. Candied nuts. Honey-roasted pecans. Maple-glazed almonds. Sugar-dusted walnuts. They sparkle. They crunch. They smell like comfort and warmth. But beneath that shiny coating is something dangerous, especially for seniors. Let me introduce you to Ms. Helen. She's 75. Always had a sweet tooth, but she tried to avoid candy and soda. So when her neighbor gifted her a tin of honey-roasted pecans, she smiled and thought, "Oh, this is better than dessert. It's just nuts." She kept the tin by her recliner. Every evening, she'd grab a handful. Sometimes two. They were sweet, comforting, easy to chew. But over the next few weeks, she noticed something strange. She felt sluggish after meals. Her sugar readings were creeping up, even though she hadn't had cake, cookies, or pie. She assumed it was just aging. But when her doctor looked at her food log, there it was. Clear as day. Those harmless pecans were flooding her system with added sugar, processed oils, and empty calories. Here's the science: candied nuts may look like healthy snacks, but many are coated in refined sugars, corn syrup, and sometimes even hydrogenated oils. It's a triple threat: sugar spikes your glucose, syrups and oils add bad fats, and it all comes wrapped in a healthy disguise. Just a quarter cup of candied nuts can carry over 20 grams of sugar. That's about 5 teaspoons in a single sitting. And the worst part? They taste so light. You don't even realize how much you've eaten. And here's the big misconception I hear all the time: it's just a little snack. Better than cake, right? Well, not really. Because while cake is an obvious indulgence, something you treat as a once-in-a-while food, candied nuts pretend to be healthy. So you eat them more often, thinking you're making a good choice. But sugar is sugar. And as we age, our body's ability to regulate it declines. Too much leads to fatigue, weight gain, nerve damage, and even increased inflammation in the joints and brain. So what should you do instead? Stick to raw or lightly roasted nuts. If you want a little sweetness, try sprinkling them with cinnamon, a dash of nutmeg, or even a touch of sea salt to bring out their natural flavor. You can also mix in a few dried blueberries or cranberries, unsweetened, if you want that touch of variety. You don't need to give up flavor. You just need to say goodbye to the fake, sugar-coated version of health. Because every bite you take, every small choice, can either heal your body, or harm it slowly. And now, we've come to the final two. One last nut that deserves the crown of anti-aging power. And one final nut that, if you have kidney issues, high oxalates, or any kind of inflammation, you should never, ever touch. Let's finish strong. Nut number 4 to eat daily: Brazil nuts, the anti-inflammatory powerhouse. Now, let's talk about the nut that wears the crown when it comes to anti-aging. The quiet powerhouse of the nut world. Not flashy. Not something you'll find in every snack bowl. But when it comes to reducing inflammation, easing joint pain, and supporting overall wellness in seniors, nothing quite matches the impact of the Brazil nut. Let me tell you about Miss Clarissa. She's 79. Independent. Fierce. The kind of woman who still insists on mowing her own lawn. But over the past year, she had developed chronic joint pain, especially in her hands and knees. It slowed her down. Took the joy out of her gardening. Even her morning walks became a chore. She tried ointments, heating pads, pain relievers. But nothing worked long-term. Until she spoke with a nutritionist who gave her a simple recommendation: 1 Brazil nut a day. Clarissa laughed. Just one? What's that going to do? But she gave it a try. Every morning, she'd open her fridge, reach into a tiny glass jar, and pop 1 Brazil nut like a vitamin. 3 weeks later. The difference was real. She could close her hand without that stabbing stiffness. Her knees didn't scream after a walk around the block. She didn't feel like her body was constantly on fire from the inside. What happened? It all comes down to one powerful mineral: selenium. Just 1 Brazil nut contains your entire daily recommended value of selenium, sometimes even more. And selenium isn't just some mineral. It plays a huge role in fighting inflammation, protecting cells from damage, balancing thyroid hormones, supporting your immune system. Especially for older adults, selenium becomes essential, but many seniors are deficient and don't even know it. Now here's where we have to be very clear. This isn't one of those more is better nutrients. Too much selenium can be toxic. It's not about grabbing a handful, it's about precision. Just 1 Brazil nut a day. Not 2. Not 5. Just 1. Keep a little jar in the fridge, like Miss Clarissa. Make it part of your morning ritual, like brushing your teeth or taking your multivitamin. One small, deliberate bite that delivers a huge benefit to your body. The flavor is smooth, creamy, almost buttery. And when you chew it slowly, knowing what it's doing for your joints, your energy, your cells, it feels less like a snack and more like medicine from nature. So if you're dealing with arthritis, stiff joints, fatigue, or even thyroid imbalances, the Brazil nut might be your new best friend. Not a cupboard staple, but a daily treasure. But, as we wrap up the nuts to eat, there's one final warning you need to hear. Because not all nuts are friendly. And if you've got kidney issues, or you're prone to calcium oxalate stones, or dealing with chronic inflammation, the next nut could be slowly damaging your health, even if it seems harmless. This last one might be the most surprising of all. Let's get into it. Nut number 4 to avoid: cashews, the kidney stressor. And now, we've arrived at the final nut on our list. The last one to be cautious of. Especially if you or someone you love is managing kidney issues, heart complications, or just trying to stay ahead of silent threats that don't always show symptoms until it's almost too late. I'm talking about cashews. Yes. I know. They're creamy. They're rich. They make the perfect base for those trendy vegan sauces. And when ground into butter, they taste so good, you'd swear they're healthy. But here's the truth most people don't know, especially seniors. Cashews may look innocent, but they can be a real burden on the kidneys. Let me tell you about Mr. Calvin. He's 81. Always loved simple meals, toast with cashew butter in the morning, maybe a little spoonful at night as a treat. He'd proudly say, "I don't eat junk food. I just like my nuts." But there was one problem. Mr. Calvin had borderline kidney disease. His doctors were keeping a close eye on his potassium levels, which were spiking, despite a relatively clean diet. And then it clicked. Cashews. Every day. In his butter. In his snack drawer. Even in his soups. What most don't realize is that cashews are high in both potassium and oxalates. For a healthy adult, this might not be a big deal. But for seniors, especially those with weakened kidney function, diabetes, or heart issues, those two things can become a toxic combination. Here's the science in plain English: potassium helps with nerve and muscle function, yes. But when the kidneys are weak, they can't flush out the excess efficiently. This leads to dangerous buildup in the blood, which can trigger irregular heartbeats, muscle weakness, or even cardiac arrest. Oxalates, on the other hand, can contribute to kidney stones, hard, painful deposits that are much more common in older adults. And cashews? They've got plenty of both. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't about fear-mongering. A few cashews once in a while won't harm most people. But for seniors already managing chronic conditions, daily consumption, especially in forms like cashew butter, can silently be doing more harm than good. Here's the biggest misconception I hear all the time: but isn't cashew butter healthier than peanut butter? Not necessarily. For older adults, peanut butter, in moderation, actually has a better nutrient balance, more protein, fewer oxalates, and typically less potassium per serving. And if it's the creaminess you crave, here's a great alternative: try sunflower seed butter. It's smooth, nutty, delicious, and much easier on the kidneys. Packed with vitamin E, lower in oxalates, and still gives you that comforting mouthfeel without the hidden risks. So here's the bottom line: if you love cashews, enjoy them sparingly, maybe once a week, and in small portions. But don't make them a daily habit. And if your kidneys are even slightly compromised, it's best to avoid them altogether and choose something safer. Because when it comes to your body at this stage of life, every small decision adds up. And choosing the right nuts over the wrong ones could be the difference between a good report at your next checkup, or a scary surprise you didn't see coming. Now, you've heard the 4 best nuts to eat daily. And the 4 you really need to keep an eye on. But let's bring it all together, so you walk away not just informed, but empowered. Let's pause for a moment now. Not to just think about nuts, but to think about you. Where you are right now. What you're facing. Because I truly know, how overwhelming it can feel. Every meal, every snack, every label in the grocery store feels like a test. Is this the right choice? Will this hurt my heart? Will this raise my sugar? What if this affects my kidneys? And then, there's the guilt. The frustration. That tiny voice that whispers, "I'm doing my best, why does it feel like it's never enough?" But let me say this, loud and clear: you are doing enough. The fact that you're here, learning, listening, means you care. And when it comes to health, especially in your senior years, caring is powerful. Caring is a form of healing in itself. Yes, the truth can be hard. That some of the foods we thought were helping us might be silently hurting us. That even healthy snacks like cashews or candied pecans could put extra pressure on our aging bodies. It's frustrating. It's confusing. And at times, it can even feel unfair. But here's what I want you to hear: this isn't a list of restrictions. This isn't about fear. This is about freedom. Yes, freedom. Because when you learn what your body truly needs, when you make informed, gentle changes, you take back control. You're not at the mercy of guesswork or trends. You're not blindly reaching for whatever looks natural or light. You're choosing intentionally, like a craftsman carefully building a longer, stronger, better life. These aren't rules. They're lifelines. They're small tools, right in your hands, to help your heart beat stronger, your brain stay sharper, your joints feel looser, your energy last longer. You don't need to do everything at once. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to memorize all 8 nuts tonight or throw out your whole pantry tomorrow. Just start with one. One choice. One change. Tomorrow morning, open your fridge and reach for that one Brazil nut. Or fill a baggie with 10 almonds. Swap your salted peanuts for dry roasted ones. Skip the candied walnuts and sprinkle cinnamon instead. That one act? That's you choosing yourself. That's you choosing strength. That's you choosing life. And I promise, with every good choice you repeat, it compounds. It builds. It creates momentum. Not just in your health, but in your confidence. In your energy. In your hope. Because you are not alone in this. There's a whole community of people, right here, walking this journey with you. We're learning together. Growing stronger together. And here on Senior Health, we're committed to making sure you have everything you need to keep going. So, take that next step. One nut. One habit. One better tomorrow. You deserve it. And we're with you every step of the way. Let's take a moment to recap everything we uncovered together today, not just to remember it, but to truly own it, to tuck it into your daily life like a quiet, healing rhythm. Here's your quick guide: nuts to eat daily, your true friends in health. Walnuts, for the brain. Almonds, for the heart. Pistachios, for blood sugar control. Brazil nuts, for inflammation and thyroid support. And now, the ones to either limit or eliminate. Especially as we age, macadamia nuts, the hidden fat bomb. Salted peanuts, a ticking blood pressure trap. Candied nuts, sweet on the outside, harmful inside. Cashews, the silent kidney stressor. It's simple, but it's powerful. And what you choose to put in your body each day adds up, more than any medication or supplement ever could. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these surprised you the most? Was there a nut you used to snack on daily, thinking it was healthy, only to find out today it might be causing harm? Or maybe there's one you're excited to add to your routine now. One that gives you hope, clarity, strength? Drop it in the comments. I truly read every single one because your stories matter. Your questions matter. And chances are, what you share could help someone else who's quietly struggling. And if this video helped you, if it gave you clarity, or hope, or just one simple idea to hold on to, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Here on Senior Health, we're not just building a channel. We're building a community. A circle of support. A place where every senior, caregiver, and concerned family member can come to learn, grow, and feel seen. Because your health matters. Your peace of mind matters. And aging well? That's not a luxury. It's a right. And we're here to help you claim it, one small, empowering habit at a time. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for listening, for caring, for making your health a priority. Stay strong. Stay curious. And most of all, stay hopeful. Because your best days don't have to be behind you. There's still so much life to live, if you live it intentionally. And hey, make sure to join us for our next video. We're diving into the best morning habits for seniors, simple, energizing steps to help you feel alive, alert, and ready for the day without pills or potions. It's going to be practical, powerful, and uplifting, just like today. You won't want to miss it. Until then, take care of your body. Take care of your heart. And take care of each other. See you soon.